This morning. I have 4 kids in my house, so it's morning is really early in the day. It's 11 o'clock here now on this coast. Curtis, what time is it for you? It's 2?
It's 2, yep.
Yeah, but we love seeing faces. This is the day and the age of the face and the video, so feel free to share your face on here. We'll make it as interactive as possible. We're just making sure everybody gets in. Hello, Jennifer. Oh, I got 2 Tracys. I saw your GIF. You did good with your GIF. I like it.
So fun.
I need to make my own. Add it to the list of to-dos. Heather, I see you're here. Your name is Curtis Michael, though. We have 2 Curtises.
That's weird. I've always wanted to be him my entire life, so now's my chance.
The organization and structure of Curtis. Let's go for
Exactly.
it. We
Let's
can all
go.
use some of that in our life. Yeah, so as we get going live here, we have Curtis and we have Heather from RavelWorks that are going to kind of just help us dive into, how do you leverage and grow your business? I don't know about you. I have 4 kids at home. We have a gigantic puppy that is mainly a horse. Like, I think we can ride it at this point. We have 101 things to do in the day. And I know that that's one of the struggles in our business is how do we grow our business and how do we find help that's going to be very proficient with our resources to get us the results on the other end of it? Because we can all spend a lot of money. I don't know. I'm good at spending money.
I'm very good at that.
We can all spend a lot of money doing a lot of different things, but how do we leverage ourselves in a way that, maybe we're starting to see some success, but we feel like we've reached kind of a plateau or a limit. Maybe, we are just struggling with one part of the conversation. It's like, if you just get me in front of people, I know I got this. Like, just get me in front of people. I know I have the next step of this, but I just don't have always the time, or maybe I'm just not as proficient at getting in front of people. So we invited, RavelWorks on here to chat with us. They're a success partner with us because our values are a lot the same. We think a lot. We value helping people succeed. We value just people in general. We value relationships and seeing people get to the next level. So that's why it's just such a good mix for us. So how about we'll just, Curtis, and I know that you've been with us for a bit and helped a lot of StreetText people, kind of give us your background and why you kind of pursued RavelWorks and why it gives you kind of the purpose in your step every day.
Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, Heather and I, we talk about this all the time. And in fact, it might be better for Heather to kind of give the background because she's got it down. She's much more like, she knows the details more than I do. I kind of forget some of the details because I'm not as good on that stuff. So Heather, if you want to give them a little bit of background on us. Oh, you're muted, Heather.
You're muted. Sorry, I muted you because it was making some noise.
Yep. So I tell people all the time, we 100% accidentally started this. It was not at all our intention to ever, really turn this into the business that it's turned into. And it's been such an organic, beautiful experience. The whole journey we've had so far. It was about 2.5 years ago. Curtis and I were working at a student loan collection agency together, and we both hated it. And it's so funny now that we look back, and we'll have conversations about it, because we didn't know then that was actually one of the building blocks to making our business successful as it is. So when we were both working there and watching the time tick by and just dreading going into work every day, we were both talking about, yes, the money that we make here is pretty decent, but the student loans were changing in a way that we were no longer helping people. And Curtis and I are very, very service-oriented people. So when the Department of Education rolled around or changed the way that the collections were working and that the programs that they were offering people, we didn't want to be a part of it anymore. And I was going out on maternity leave. He was still in it a little bit, but we had connected with Chris, and we had both been talking about going into the realty world and joining his team. And we were both kind of a little bit scared to make the jump. So we ended up doing some hours for him. Curtis, I think you started it a little bit before I did. But he he did some hours for him and kind of kept me in the loop along the way, and just kind of watched how the whole experience worked, and just Chris had given a very crash course into how this worked, and said, here's the leads, here's the ad they clicked on, and here's where you leave the notes.
Oh.
Ended up, kind of telling me along the way, he's like, yeah, we kind of collaborated. And then as Curtis got better and better at it, he's like, I was wanting to lead collections more, and I was going on maternity leave. He's like, well, why don't we see if anybody else needs help? So we put up a post actually within StreetText, and just said, hey, does anybody need help? And we were inundated. And in that moment, we both kind of talked and said, people really need help. There's a real need to in this industry, people, this is what people are looking for. So we both took on clients and did our best and got very good at it very quickly, because we were used to cold calling. We were used to this kind of level of service, and immediately fell in love with it. Immediately fell in love with helping agents grow their business, being able to do the things they couldn't do, and partnering with them in a way that organically built their business in a way that they wouldn't be able to without us. So it's been very, very rewarding, very accidental, very fate feeling, I think is the best way to put it.
Yeah, all the great things in life happen accidentally, though. Like,
truly.
And what a shift from, I know for me, like my happiest messages I get in the day are people's wins. Like, oh my God, Ira,
Yes.
I just got my first listing with StreetText.
Yes,
oh my God,
saying.
Ira, like instead of like, I'm hunting down people to pay back loans for their Bachelor of Arts degree that they're not doing anything with, right?
Yep. So like, I'm not even going to school, or I'm not even in the job that I went to school for. I'm like, yeah, I know, I'm sorry.
And the thing too is agents, real estate agents, are some of the most passionate people about what they do anyway. So that's what really drew us to stay within the real estate world, because we've been asked to kind of go outside of real estate. We've been asked to be VAs and administrative assistants in other industries, and we've thought about kind of moving in that direction eventually. But honestly, when it comes down to it, realtors are passionate about what they do. They want to grow. They want to help their clients, and we like what Ira was saying. Like when those kind of align, those passions, those core values, they align. Like it really doesn't feel like work anymore. Like we become invested in the success of our clients, and I think that's what really helps us be successful.
Yeah. So give me a picture for when you have somebody who has an amazing working relationship with you. Like what problem, like when do I know that a VA of some sort or an ISA, and you guys, we've talked before, you guys will flip-flop between the two roles where you'll just cover some time doing some of the VA type stuff that's not actually like the sales and lead follow-up, but just setting people up to succeed with all of their systems and pulling them all together, which we all know can be a time suck. Like just figuring out how to zap the thing to make the thing happen could just eat up a whole chunk of your day. So what kind of are the biggest problems that you're solving for agents that you feel like they're coming to you for?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And in fact, the biggest problem that we solve is time management, allowing you to focus your time on the other aspects of your business. And that's usually the first kind of like turning point in any business really as it grows. When you start to feel like you can't do everything yourself anymore. And that's that little ledge that we kind of like help you down from, because if you're spending 10, 12 hours a day on the road, doing viewings, doing paperwork, doing all like the necessary steps it takes to help someone sell or buy a house, at the end of the day, you come home and do you have time to make dinner? Do you have time to be with your kids? Do you have time to read a book or do your hobbies? So, and then the last thing you want to do is spend the next 2-3 hours of that free time prospecting and cold calling. And in fact, it might not be a good time for your area to do that, because by the time you're home, it might be 8 or 9 o'clock at night. And in my experience, that's not a good time to prospect. So that's that first little step. That's the first problem that we're solving. The second problem is one of our most common, questions that we get is, if you have any anxiety about calling, if you are anxious on the phone, if you feel as if maybe you have a strong accent, or if sometimes that you feel like you don't know what to say when you're on the phone, maybe you don't have that sort of like, quick improv almost type conversational. Those are also the kind of like problems that we solve, because we've had the conversation a bunch of times. I've heard almost every iteration there is when it comes to a lead. And, at first, that first one might throw you, but we go on the next one we learn from it. Our whole team is constantly chatting to each other like, hey, I just heard this as an obstacle or whatever. How would I get over that? Well, this is what I did when I heard it a few months ago. We constantly update our list of obstacles and objections, so that way we know how we can, fix them and stuff like that. So, and then the third thing that we find that the problem that we're solving is that organizational thing. So just like you were saying, Ira, when you have a CRM like KV Core or Follow Up Boss or something that is similar to those things, where you don't have time to dive into every aspect that they have to offer because you don't have time to do it again. We train all of our VAs on the big three, basically. Lion Desk, Follow Up Boss, and KV Core are the first ones they get trained on. We do an in-depth training on those three. I know a bunch of other smaller CRMs, obviously, because if you don't have those three, that's absolutely fine. I've done a bunch of my own individual trainings on those. So learning how those are going to integrate with all your systems, pulling your leads from every direction. Obviously, if you're not just using StreetText, if you have other places, if you're cold calling with expires, FISBOs, and stuff like that, putting them into your system and making sure they're on the right drip campaign, and making sure your reminders and tasks are on helping you instead of hindering you. And then if you have BombBomb or any other, program that you want to integrate with that, we can help you do that because we've been doing it. And we know how that all works. So those are like the big three: time, organization, and anxiety are really like those first three problems that we try to solve.
Yeah. So if I'm looking for that type of solution, like what does that look like in a week to week? I know that you dedicate a certain amount of hours to it. And is there flexibility in the tasks that you're going to achieve? Like what are like kind of the list of things that you guys could to help people accomplish?
So yeah, that's a great question. So flexibility is one of our main pillars. Flexibility, communication, and transparency. Those are the three things that we really strive very, very hard to stay close to. So in terms of flexibility, we're most effective at 10 hours a week. It allows us to have time to skip trace, have decent conversations, update notes, organize everything, and doesn't really put that time crunch pressure where 5 hours, where it's only 1 hour a day. You want to make sure every call counts, and so sometimes you get a little bit of that commission breath, if you guys are familiar with that term. And so we want to obviously avoid that. So 10 hours, but we've done anything from 5 to 40 hours for people. It depends on how much service you're looking for. And that's where our flexibility really shines, because we'll do 10 hours a week, 2 hours a day. We might say, okay, we'll do 1 hour on like Wednesday, but we'll do 1 hour on Saturday. So that way, like those people who are on the weekend will catch those too. Or some of our VAs work from Tuesday to Saturday instead of Monday through Friday. But you always have that. So one of the things that we do is our VAs send out a pre-week check-in. So you'll know exactly what hours they're working for you on a day-to-day basis. So Monday, it might be like 12 to 2. Tuesday, it might be 3 to 5, whatever, so on and so forth. Well, if you go to your VA and go, hey, 12 to 2 is not a good time to call. There's, I don't know, there's a bad traffic. There's a sports game, local area thing, something that's affecting that time, or people aren't going to probably answer that phone or whatever. If you go, hey, could you actually shift those hours? Your VA is more than happy to do that, because they know that flexibility is important, because we want to make sure that they are calling enough people for you and having enough conversations. So that's where that flexibility in terms of time comes from. So if you're finding that you need an extra 10 hours a week, an extra 2 hours a day to get that stuff done, that might be that first indication that a VA might be a good choice for you to help you build and scale.
I was just messaging, Chris. I see Chris is on here, and I know he uses you. Anyone else that's using RavelWorks can give us some perspective from the other side. Feel free to unmute yourself.
Oh, I can.
For sure. Go ahead, Chris. We can hear you.
Yeah, I muted. because I'm driving. But yeah, so I mean, as far as RavelWorks goes and how they've been able to really assist me, it's simply, I work with Heather. And flexibility really is great because no matter what I need, I can just ask. So I've changed CRMs 2 or 3 times while I search everything out. And one of the main things that she's helped me do is get off the roller coaster of real estate, where January I've got 0 listings, February I've got 6, March I've got 2, April I've got 10. It's created that consistency in the background because as I'm working on the existing accounts I have, she's building up new ones in my pipeline. And there's sometimes where I'm like, hey, Heather, you absolutely cannot call on Sundays because the bills are playing and it's just a waste of time and energy. Can you slam 3 hours on Monday and Tuesday instead? Or, hey, can you restart my ads every Friday? And I want to start doing guerrilla tactics. I don't want to run my ads Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and that's it. And then can you just manage that and let me know what comes in? Hey, can you download my follow-up boss and when they come in, you get it as soon as possible. So it's really done a lot for me because I don't have that anxiety anymore where I'm driving. I'm like, I got to pull over. This is a town I really want to work. And I love this lead. I need to call over and call them out because I know in 10 minutes if I text Heather and say, hey, did you get that lead? She's like, yeah, appointment is, and take all the way my pipeline in the background because about as soon as I finish up a listing, I've got another one coming from her.
You're testing my listening skills here. We're getting a lot of audio background, but I'm catching it. I can see everyone leaning into the screen to listen a little bit better.
Sorry.
It's okay.
I'm in the backwoods of Pennsylvania trying to head home.
Yeah, what a real estate agent on the road trying to do business in office? That never happens.
And actually, I'll kind of speak to that. Hang on, Chris. So the other day, and this is kind of what he was trying to explain when he kind of cut out a little bit. So the other day, he got a lead in and he screenshot it, sent to me. He said, can you call this right now? I need this like yesterday. I have someone who will buy it right now. So I ended up calling the lead, talked to her. And because I knew that he had a buyer already, it was a little bit easier for me to push it without pushing it. So I called him and I said, hey, this is Heather, got the home evaluation request and, kind of went through my spiel. And then as she was talking, I said, well, listen, and she had told me that she didn't want to list till next year. That's what they were thinking. And I said, well, just throwing out all the options. And this is not to pressure you at all, but I know that, Chris has a buyer that has been looking for a property like yours for quite some time. And I know that when he gets there, he's going to kind of bring it up. So I wanted to give you a chance to think about it before he got there. Because I don't want you to feel blindsided and I don't want you to feel pressure, but I want you to have all the options so that way when you do make a choice, you can make a choice knowing you made what was best for your family and not looking back and saying, well, if I had known that then I would have made a different choice because I could have made more money or I could have done this or whatever. You can make the choice that's best for you and your family. And she was kind of, oh, we're, like I said, we're a year out. I said, yep, that's totally fine. And then I let it go. And then I came back to it just a little bit. And then I just, kind of pushed on a little bit more. And then toward the end of the conversation, after I got the appointment for him, she goes, well, is the buyer that you guys have a family? And I knew right then and there, she's thinking about it. It's on her plate. She's thinking, okay, well, what is the, I'd be crazy not to sell price right now. And that was the phrase that got her. And as soon as I said that, she was like, well, actually, is it a family? Because she wanted to give it to a good person. She wanted to make sure it didn't go to an investor. And because of that and the way that the urgency that he had put on it for me, it was a very, very good, really good team effort that we attacked that with. So that was an awesome one that you were just talking about, Chris.
I think all of you need to listen to that wording like that was put in there, because even if you don't use an ISA or VA, you're not at that stage in your business. When you're doing this every day and you can assess the customer's need like that and switch the conversation out, those were some very valuable wordings and just a listening on the other side and a very lighthearted approach. Chris, go ahead. Sorry, I cut you off. You're muted now, though. Did we lose?
There we go. No, I'm here. And that's one of the main reasons I went with RavelWorks. I will tell you, I tried other VAs. None of them thought and talked like a realtor. The beauty about RavelWorks is they come from a background of collections with the Department of Education, and no one wants to pay for their Bachelor of Arts degree now that they're never using it. So if you can convince someone to pay for something that they're not using, then helping people with real estate is super easy. These guys think and talk like real estate agents, not like salespeople. And it's done wonders for my business. I trust them so implicitly because I've heard their talk offs. And if you're using StreetText, then you need a VA because you're getting more leads than any one person can work. So you're letting money slide. The reason I took on RavelWorks is because I was on that roller coaster. I'd work my leads 2, 3, 4 days in a row, get 5 appointments, be so swamped with the appointments that I could work on the next batch. And when I went around to that batch, 2 or 3 of them were already on the market and I was leaving money on the table. So that's why I went with them, because StreetText gave me so many leads. I needed help.
Love that. I have Jody asking a question in here, just saying, like, for clarity, do they do other things for both leads with contact info and address only? Particularly, I think the reason why we call on them as a success partner is because we know they're super familiar with the back end of StreetText. And they've also kind of told us that we're their favorites. So when you tell people that, like, we love working with StreetText leads, they're like, we want more people to use StreetText because we get further with StreetText. Like, can you give us specifics on how you help people, like, in their StreetText accounts make that next step where they're stuck?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm sure you're all familiar with what happened with the custom domains and the iOS update, how StreetText worked to get everyone a custom domain. I had probably 4 or 5 clients at the time. I think Heather had a few. A couple of other VAs had a couple. We did that custom domain class for them. We had that custom domain set up for them. On top of that, we're going to get through all the address onlys as well. We're going to skip trace. We're going to go into each of the tabs. So, like, if I don't know how many people are familiar with it, but there's a little circle next to the contact's name. If you click on that, it leads into like a little like profile page just for that lead. Obviously there's notes in there, conversations and stuff like that, but like there's more notes in there in case they did fill out that form. So that's an easy thing to miss because it's not right there on the StreetText like contacts page. But if you click on that circle, there's notes where it says like, hey, yep, it's a 3-bedroom house. I did this, and updates. So we always look at that. And just because we know that there are a few people out there who are like, well, I've already entered this information. Why am I telling you now? You know what I mean? So like, we want to have that at our disposal when we call them. On top of that, if they leave a bad number, if they don't leave a number at all, if it's just an email and an address, we're going to skip trace and find that. Heather and I have been skip tracing for years because we did that with student loan debt collections. But luckily for this, we don't have to also skip trace neighbors and roommates and family members to tell them about their debt. So what we do is we just try to find a good number. And if there's 10 of them, we'll call all 10 until we find a good number. Like that's it. Like we'll just boom, 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 fire right through all 10 of them. And hopefully one of them is good. If they're all bad, we're obviously going to leave a note. Everything that we touch is going to have a note right in StreetText or your CRM, whatever you're using. But that's part of that back end of StreetText that Ira was just kind of alluding to, because we're also going to pay attention to the conversations. We're going to, if you haven't activated Julie, we'll help you do that. That funnel that you have set up for every single ad, we'll help you go in there and personalize it. We'll help you to change the text message wording if you want that changed. We'll help you with each aspect of each of those things, because I know that that's a lot to kind of dig into. Every new technology, every new CRM or another thing that you're adding onto your business, you might not have the time to dedicate how to fully implement every single aspect of it to make sure it's working for you properly. And we have that at our disposal because we've done it hundreds of times at this point. So that's how we handle that thing. Jody, I did see your question about the how do we handle the home value question if they don't have access to MLS. So yes, we don't have access to MLS. We're not real estate agents. However, a lot of HomeBot people, a lot of StreetText people use HomeBot, which is super useful. What we do is we'll move the leads right from StreetText into HomeBot. We'll have whatever value HomeBot gets. We always try to Google it as well. So we try to get what Zillow says, what all the other ones say, because I don't want HomeBot to give like a much lower value. And so we're constantly checking, okay, if Zillow's giving this much, HomeBot's giving this much, I'm going to message you and say like, hey, before I send this message out from HomeBot, do you want to take a look at this to MLS or take a look at this in RPR or whatever? And let me know if that should be sent out, because the last thing I want to do is send out an email that says like your home is worth $300,000 less than what it should be or something like that. So that's how we kind of handle that. And then we like HomeBot because we pay attention to those hand raisers in there, the people who are active in there looking at their HomeBot reports consistently, asking questions to the HomeBot system. And obviously StreetText, I don't know if you guys know this, but they have an integration button right there. Saves a lot of time. You can integrate HomeBot with StreetText and do a one-click, send it right over. So we like that a lot.
And actually that HomeBot, as Curtis is talking, we actually use that to our advantage. And that's typically how we get a lot of our appointments, because we call them and say, hey, we got your home evaluation report request and we're working on it as we speak. But before we send it over, we want to just find out if there was any updates that, you may have done. And then you're like, oh, well, I was just curious. I was expecting a computer generated response. Oh, yeah. You know what? Normally that's absolutely what you get. But in this market, as I'm sure you're aware, the houses are selling more quickly than the computers can keep up with. So I was actually, hired on just to do these home evaluations so I can get it over to you and get you the most true value. And we reiterate that most true value over and over in the conversation, because that's what we're trying to give them. So then when we go to, when we get all done and they've given us all the updates, we could say, hey, well, listen, according to this, that your house is worth XYZ, and I'm happy to send this report over to you. But what I'd like to have is, is have someone come take a look at it. They're going to give you that most true value. And that's what you're looking for, because I can tell you right now, based on the information that you've given me, this report is incorrectly, but I can't change that without having someone come take a look at it. So that works really well with our transition. And that's when we start selling, you guys as realtors or whoever we're working with at the time. And we have enough personal information about the realtor to tell them why they should trust them. And it's able to get us a level of trust. We're able to give them a level of trust with the realtor that we're working with before you even get in the door. So by the time you get in there, we've already told them that you're a neighborhood expert. We're telling them, why they should trust you. And they feel this level of, okay, this is the smartest move to find out what my house is really worth.
Yeah, I remember back when I had somebody in the summertime that was set up a meeting with me and we chatted, and he's like, Ira, honestly, he's like, I'm just so busy. He goes, my ads are ripping through leads. I'm getting so many leads coming in. He goes, I'm so underutilizing StreetText. Like there's people in there I haven't even touched. I haven't even messaged back. He's like, I've totally let the ball drop. It's totally a me thing. It's not a you thing. So I introduced him to you guys over there. And one of the things that he liked is he's like that they learned how to speak in my language. Like they learned how to match my personality so that they felt like they were just an extension of me. And within a week and a half, I had a message in my box and Facebook, hey, Ira, I just got my first listing with StreetText. And then a couple of days later, he had some appointments set up. And that was with leads that were already sitting in there that had not been worked really well. Like I always say, old leads are sometimes your best leads. They've aged longer. The person put it in a long time ago. It's like a fine wine. The longer you let it percolate, the more close they are now to the actual date, and the more surprised they are that you are such a professional that you had your assistant or your team reach out to me and follow up with me. Follow up today, I'm telling you. Like, I was talking to mortgage people here in Kelowna, 3 people, not single one of them followed up with me. I filled out stuff on their website. I'm like, you were just throwing money away on websites and things like that. So, I mean, I think it's really important that people speak your language. And I think that's what you guys take the time to do. And I know that he was appreciative of that when you worked what he was already had there and just wasn't touching. There was potential there and it was not being mined. So love it. I'm seeing more questions drop in. Feel free to unmute yourself if you want to ask some questions here. Get the unmute button going and ask some questions.
I got a question. I used a VA before, and they were like from overseas, and they were really good. But the problem they had was they're rushing through the calls. They weren't making a connection with the leads, So they would, like, at the end of the week, give me this report. And they hit, contacted all the leads, but I'm like, what is this? It's like all you said was hello or something. I don't know what the conversation was. And no matter how I dialed them in and gave them a script, even when I listened in, I was like, oh my God, you're rushing through this. You're not making a connection. My question to you is, how do you train your people to make a connection when they make the call? Like, is there like a strategy you guys use?
Yeah, actually, it's a very good question, Joe. Heather and I, we've both worked alongside overseas ISAs, and they're wonderful people. They absolutely are. But kind of what you're saying there, they don't have the idiosyncrasies of the language. They maybe don't understand sarcasm. They maybe aren't able to pick up on like the small things, the turns of phrases. So all of our team are US based, first and foremost. And 2, we only hire people who have had a extensive experience with customer service. We then train them. So we develop a script, but with our script, we try to say like, hey, because it's not something you can really train, but it's something that we can encourage. So match that energy. So if I was to talk to like a no nonsense older gentleman and he's like, yeah, I put my information in there. I'm like, oh, great. Well, all I wanted to do is just make sure you had it. Is this your email address? And then I'm just going to give him the email address. Yeah, that's my email address. Cool. I'm going to go ahead and send that over to you. Did you have you made any upgrades or renovations? I just want to make sure that's right. You know what I mean? Like I'm adjusting to his energy, and I'm not going to be like, oh, hey, I'm going to go to a long spiel. I'm not going to be a big long thing where he's going to click and hang up. Likewise, if I'm talking to, a mother of 4 who's like, listen, I got to make dinner for my kids. Like, can you like, great. Yep. I'm not going to try to keep them on the phone at all. I'm going to call them tomorrow. So speaking to your question a little bit more, Joe, the back end of that is we develop a relationship with our clients. The VA that you're assigned to is your only VA. You're not going to be like put into a pool of people and then whoever's working that day is going to work you. They're going to develop a relationship with you through email, through text message, through phone calls, Zoom calls if you want to have them. They're going to learn how you talk, learn how you work. They're going to learn those unique service propositions that you have. They're going to want to become invested in you because the more invested they are in your success, that genuine feeling of them being like, hey, Joe's the best at what he does. That's going to come out and it's going to leak into every single conversation that they have because they truly believe that, because they've talked with you, they've had that relationship with you. And that's where we really differ, because we want to make sure that as that relationship grows throughout the time that you're with us, you may be like, listen, I need you to talk to my sphere of influence because I don't have time to do that. And who would you trust to work your sphere of influence? Because those are the people that you've worked with in the past and things like that. So we want to make sure that that VA has that relationship with you to do that. And then on top of all that, you'll always have myself and Heather at your disposal. If your VA is, not hitting expectations correctly, maybe they're not saying things, because I saw a question come through about recorded calls. We record and monitor our calls. We grade them. We make sure that they're hitting the right, script points and stuff like that. So if you go, hey, I went on this appointment and my VA said that I was going to take 100 free pictures of them, like, why would they say that? I don't do that in the first. What are you talking about? We're going to listen to that call and be like, no, your VA never said that. We'll send that call recording right over to you. Or if you go like, hey, can you change your script? I saw Jennifer had asked about like not using the word value. We won't use certain phrases, or we'll use the phrases that you want us to use. So that's why we try to like really mold and change and flexible with every aspect that we do, from time that we work to the conversations that we have. So it's kind of a long-winded answer, Joe. I apologize, but yes, we train them to talk as a person.
I love that.
And a part of that, Curtis, just to kind of touch on that, like even Ira, like as you were talking, Ira, like when you were talking about, your guy had texted you and said, I got my first StreetText listing and, had got the appointments. Like I could feel the excitement that as you were saying it, because we become so invested in your success that when I know that I have an appointment set up, like I've already asked the realtor, like Naomi, she went on an appointment, I think Thursday for one of them. And we've talked about it ever since, because I want to know every step of the way what I can do better. If she didn't end up being the listing agent, why, how I could have phrased it differently, or what I could have done. I get really disappointed when it doesn't end up in a listing. And I know that my whole team does, because we want to see those appointments turn into listings. We want to see those, any warm nurture leads that we have in the pipeline eventually turn into a listing, because our success is truly your success. And I know firsthand that I can feel that passion as you were talking, and it goes right alongside with all of our agents that we work with, just feeling that we were able to help them do something that they wouldn't have been able to do without us. Like, it's pretty incredible.
Yeah. And I think that's why we like having a success partner, because everything that we do is cyclical. So what this means is, like, for RavelWorks, because they're working in multiple StreetText accounts and they're seeing things that maybe we don't see, and they're having conversations with, agents that are working as leads. we appreciate that open loop of communication. That's why we pulled them on board as a success team with us, because we can say to them, hey, what are the pain points? Like, what are the things that we think we can do better? We can put things into our product, and then we can have that same open communication with them. Because sometimes it's hard to give people feedback right to their face, right? You're like, I want to tell this person this, but I don't want to say this directly to them. So this kind of open loop allows you, so it's the same relationship you're building with the agents too, where you can kind of see that where the disconnect's happening and having that open line of communication, because maybe my conversion rates aren't as good because I'm messing up the listing appointment. Like that, maybe there's something I'm doing in there that we can get some feedback going that can help you improve your listing appointment too. Because sometimes I was talking to somebody and he says, like, Ira, I've gotten lots of listing appointments, but I've gotten no listing. So it's not StreetText. They're like, it's me. Like, that's the part of my puzzle piece I need to fix right now. So having an open loop of communication is so important just for growth. And that's why, you know, we decided to partner with RavelWorks in terms of being a success partner, so that we can throw them in our ad people's classes and we can teach them the specifics. So then you don't have to learn them. They're going to implement them for you, because there so many times as guides, we go into people's accounts and we're like, oh, like, oh, this could be done better. Oh, they just don't have the time to get to it. So if we can teach a success partner like RavelWorks to do those like, things that are going to make people get up to the next level, then we're excited for that, because that means we're just saving you back time to work on your listing skill presentations. That's where you're dropping the ball, right? Questions. Do you guys work with agents in Canada?
So that has been on and off a little bit. We've worked with a few Canadian agents. The reason we're not as effective in Canada because our skip tracing services don't extend to Canada. Our local number provider that we have, it used to, we switched to a new one that has better reports and call recording and stuff like that. That no longer allows us to use a local number in Canada. Now, if you have a CRM that has like a call service, or like if you have a dialer or stuff like that, we'd be more than happy to obviously work that in Canada. We got to be very honest about this. We're not as effective in Canada for those two main reasons. But the other aspect of it too is, you know, our pricing is in USD. And so we know that can sometimes play a factor. We didn't think that we'd ever expand so far that like having international clients was going to be a thing. So we're working with our accountants actively on that. But right now we're just it's just different in Canada, as I'm sure you guys know. So we try to say like, we'll case by case basis, if we can make it work, we'll absolutely make it work. But yes, and I saw another question about RedX. We're very familiar with RedX Vortex. We worked with that a bunch, and we work with that as well. And I believe I saw a question about Spanish speaking. So right now we don't have any bilingual or Spanish speaking VAs. We are actively working on that. It's hard to find that because, you know, we look for a very specific person first and foremost. And then, you know, hopefully they can speak Spanish. That'd be great. But we obviously first and foremost want to find a like-minded person who comes on board. So looks like Allison might have a question. I see a hand up.
Allison, if you want to unmute yourself. I don't see the hand up.
Oh, it was my mouse hovering over hers. Like a hand.
Allison, now you've been, oh no, it says she's connecting to audio. She's not even connected.
That was my bad. So if there's anybody have any question, because obviously we can go more in depth on any, like if you want to have a call with us, absolutely. We'll go more in depth about everything that we do for you, with you, any services that we might provide. We have a website, obviously, and obviously we want to spend more time and we can talk about obviously what we do. But
quick question. Do you guys do month to month, or is it a 1 year sign up, or how do you guys do it?
Great question. We actually don't do a contract. We work week to week. We invoice at the end of the week on the Sunday. Then we typically, payments due within 3 days. You have time to overlook that invoice and say like, hey, this isn't correct or whatever. If you have a question, obviously we'd be more than happy to fix it or whatever. But the reason why we don't do a contract, and Heather says it perfectly, it makes us hungrier to keep working better for you, because if we're like, oh, they're going to be with us every year, we don't have to do some work today or whatever. It balances out throughout the year. No, we want to make sure that every single day we put in the same effort, because we want you to stay with us. And we know that there are plenty of services out there in the real estate world that will lock you into 6 months, a year, and maybe it doesn't work out for you in a couple of months. You're like, well, I got to waste money on this for another year or whatever. Plus, we know that our services don't mesh well with every type of personality and every type of real estate agent. And that's not to say that's a bad thing. We've learned sometimes the hard way, sometimes the easy way, but we've learned that there are certain personality types that, maybe don't like to relinquish a modicum of control over their business. Some who aren't able to develop that relationship with their VA. If your communication isn't as good, because we're looking for people who, know what their expectations are, can communicate them effectively, and you just need somebody to kind of develop that relationship with you and take your business to the next level. We want to help you with that. And that's why we just don't do a contract. We don't want to lock you into it if it's not somebody you work with.
Curtis, that's a good answer, because a lot of these places that I think are less reputable to try to lock you in for a year, and like, a year? I go, what if this doesn't work out? you got me for a year. I'm like, man, that's a lot of money. But when you tell me week to week, I'm like, whoa, that's pretty confident. And just a little note, I just want to let you know that my expectations are not even that high. If I can convert 1%, you got me for life. I won't go anywhere. I mean, just 1%. That's all I want. So we'll talk.
So awesome. So right now, we're averaging 3 appointments a month per client. Now that's 3 in-person appointments. We do phone appointments and Zoom, but those are like our last ditch effort. Like, we really not push for an in-person appointment, but like, we don't settle for a phone appointment or anything like that. We really, because we know 80% of people go with the first agent that they meet face-to-face, and we want you in front of them as quickly as possible. Now, if they push back for COVID reasons, for mobility reasons, for, any other reasons like that, then we'll say, cool, let's do it on Zoom. I'd rather do a Zoom. Okay, don't know what Zoom is. Maybe they're an older person. Great, well, then we'll do a phone call. But right now we're averaging 3 appointments in person a month per client. And that's across the user base. Some areas we do more in, some areas like, those larger metropolitan areas, your Las Vegases, your Miamis, your, whatever. It can be harder to get a solid in-person appointment, but over the course of the year, you'll average out to 3. If you can land 1 in that month out of those 3 appointments, and you can do that each month, I mean, that's an additional 12 on top of whatever you're already doing. So that's why we don't do the contract as well, because if it's not working for you, we don't want you locked in there and just spending money on it. So yeah. Any other questions anybody has? I'd love to answer. Heather is also available. So
it's just to clarify, you do utilize a local number, or if we have like a dialing service you can use through there.
So we do utilize a local number.
Okay.
We figure out what area code that you want us to use. And then we, request it from our number, our phone provider. Excuse me, I was sick a few days ago, so I'm still getting better. And then the second part of your question is a dialer. We don't have an in-house dialer system, but we're familiar with Mojo, RedX, Vulcan 7. So if you have a dialer that you were using and you want your VA to utilize it for you for however many hours a week, we'll be more than happy to do that. So in terms of the process for a Spanish-speaking person, typically we know enough Spanish to say like, hey, do you mind if the agent calls you then? Like, we'll get you over to that. So if you're a Spanish-speaking agent or have someone on your team that is Spanish-speaking, we'll get that over there. It hasn't happened a lot. I speak a very conversational amount of Spanish. I can say I'm sorry, like, let me have you talk to my agent, stuff like that. But we I'll call Hippo. We use Nextiva. I'm not sure if you're familiar with them, but they're pretty good. So in terms of pricing, Jennifer, I see that question. We actually used to do a package, 3 different packages based on whatever level that you need. And we found that everybody that was on the lowest tier package would move up within a few weeks anyway. And then most people wanted the services that are in the top tier package. So what we actually ended up doing was we just got rid of any sort of packages. So we actually bespoke build your package based off your pain points. And then we price it accordingly. So we don't have like a baseline pricing right now because we're kind of trying this out for the last few months. But what we do is, if you only need like this and this service, then, let us know that, you know what I mean? But for the most part, we try to open up all of our services for everything. You'll see a list of services we have on on our website. But we try to cover the whole gamut, from ad monitoring and launching to funnel regulation to StreetText account management to CRM organization to skip tracing, call monitoring. If you want that one-on-one like role play calling with your VA, we can do that as well. We do FSBOs, expireds, work on dialers, anything that has to pertain to the real estate world. We've either done it or will learn how to do it so we can do it for you.
Curtis, so as far as the VAs, because for me, I have a hard time having other people make calls. I've just been there, done that. I had an ISA, and you're right. It's that whole understanding the flow of the conversation. And I'm like, I can't do this anymore. But like, I don't necessarily need help with the StreetText part, but do you guys have people who are advanced at like using Zapier and setting in special codes? So when they go into your CRM, property alerts are already set, it goes to the right campaign, because then I feel like I'm free to make a phone call because the back end's already set up, running. They don't have to wait. Like, if we want tools like that, where the text messaging and the personalization through Zapier goes in, like, are you guys able to handle that as well?
Yeah, so right now, I'm probably our Zapier expert. It's not something that we've been asked a lot to do, simply because I guess it's not something on people's minds right now. But yeah, I'm very, very familiar, very, very proficient with Zapier. I can do all that, make sure the property alerts go up, the text messaging, stuff like that. We are building something out the last few months. Heather might know more about this, but we want to have basically that almost like pure admin services, just general admin services like that, where if you don't need somebody on the phones, if you don't need somebody handling your account on StreetText or ads or anything like that, and you're just looking for somebody who does like that general admin stuff, we are looking to kind of build that out right now. And that's a great question, Jennifer, about the Zapier and things like that. So property alerts, emails, text messages, things like that. So yeah. And that all plays into getting to know how you work as an agent. So, if you're old school, we'll help you with the new school stuff. If you're up to date on all the new stuff, like maybe you just need that voice in a sea of text, and we'll be that voice.
Thanks.
And actually, part of that too, that flexibility and that transparency, whatever it is that you need, if we can't do it right then, Jennifer, we're going to become an expert and then come back to you and say, okay, we've got it. We'll help you with anything you need. We just need to know what that is. So that way we can train because if Curtis and I don't know it, that's a very rare thing, but we need to make sure that our team knows it too. And right now we don't have enough agents needing just that part of it to really focus on that. But we're going to launch an entire class then, especially if we start seeing more and more agents like, okay, well, I don't know the back end part of it. And I don't, I'm realizing now that, I'm not as successful as I should be, because I'm not doing the back end part of it, making sure those funnels are okay, making sure that the drip campaigns are running, all of that automation is set up. Like, we know how to do obviously the standard stuff, but if that's all you need, absolutely. Not only will we train, make sure that we're experts in it, but our team is also going to be, and I can hear them literally like in the background, not like physically, but I already know my team well enough to know I can see that they're texting each other going, yes, let's do that. Let's do that. So I can hear it now.
And Heather, your name's Heather, right? Because it says
Yes.
Curtis Michael. I have to remember. Okay. So yeah, so that's another good point. Like, because you guys do in-house and it's based in the United States, do you find that you have less turnover rate? Because
yeah,
I think the struggle with most people when they go overseas is not so much, I mean, the language can be a barrier, but I think a lot of it too is there's not a real connection or loyalty to stay.
yes.
And I often find that they're moving from just
Yep.
different things. So you
Yep.
can't get that, you can't have that flow.
So just to jump on that, and not to cut you off, Heather, but just to jump on that, because my side of the company, I focus on the employee side of things. We pay the livable American wage. We try to keep up with cost of living increases. We also have an internal bonus system based off of number of appointments set. So we want to make sure that if they reach their 3 appointments, if they get to 3, their bonus level goes up. And the more that they get, that bonus level is going to go up each and every time that they set a good appointment. Now, the more feedback we get from agents about those appointments, the better off future appointments are going to be, because if we don't get feedback, oh, that was a bad appointment. Well, what was bad about it? Why was it? Something we said? Did we do something incorrectly? Did we not hear a red flag? Like, what happened there? So the more feedback we get about that. So in terms of, loyalty, we started this company based on the fact that we have worked for a lot of bad bosses. We've worked for a lot of bad jobs. And my whole goal with the employees is to give them a company that they want to work for, that they are happy to work for. And the more that we can do that, the better off that they're going to be, because a happy employee is a happy, they're going to do the better work, honestly. And so, yeah, to speak to that a little bit. Now, with that being said, the other side of the coin is we have basically a 1-strike policy, because we know that, if an agent is putting their trust in us to get that work done, and that VA is not performing to the expectations that has, that damages the reputation of myself and Heather and the company, and damages any future relationship that we might develop with other future clients. So one, we offer them a mandatory training and say, like, hey, these are the things you need to work on. You're going to be on a probationary period. Excuse me. And this is how you get off that probationary period. And if you can't do that or won't do that, or if it doesn't help, you're no longer with the company, because we can't afford that liability, because it is so hard to trust a virtual person across the country with your business. And we are not going to have the reputation we built be tarnished by someone who's just trying to get, like, a couple hours in each week and then bill you guys for 10. You know what I mean? So
I love you got a huge amen there from Jennifer. She's like, it's so hard to trust somebody else virtually with your business. And Jennifer was like, amen.
And we know that all of our workers are virtual. So we're in the same exact boat as you. So we want to make sure the people that we hire are the people that we want to work with you. So,
and part of that, Curtis, like when we look for people that work for us, it's like-minded people. We want to make sure that not only do we get along with them as their bosses, if you will, but also that we know, because we've been doing this long enough, that they're going to be able to do the job, which is why our training program is extensive. Why, we do put we do really have a low turnover rate, because of how well, not only that we treat our employees, but the success part of it, and, the type of personalities that they're hiring. Like, all of those go hand in hand to make sure that we're setting ourselves up, not only ourselves up for success, but also you. And people don't quit jobs. They quit managers, they quit bosses. And so Curtis and I have made it to where, and that's why part of us, we keep clients, we keep ourselves in the actual VA part of it, because we want to make sure that we stay grounded and don't set expectations that aren't realistic for our VAs. We are in it just as much as you guys are. We know how hard it is. We know how exhausting it can be to be on the phone day in and day out. And we're not setting those call center expectations. We're keeping it as realistic and humbling and, just as accurate as we possibly can, to make sure not only are our expectations being met, but also yours.
So I know there's a lot of information. Of course, we'll go more in detail if you do want to set up a call with us. But if there's anyone here who's kind of like on that verge of being like, listen, do I need a VA? Do I need an ISA? Do I have enough business for one? Should I get one to get more appointments so I can get more listings and make more money, all that stuff? That's obviously going to be a very personal decision. It takes a while. So the thing that I like to point out is, if you were to make a post on LinkedIn or Indeed, and you were to hire somebody, interview them, and then train them on all your stuff and do all that stuff and that entire process, and not only is it lengthy and time consuming, but that person might not work out in the long run. They might quit. They might not do well or whatever. Maybe they're just not a good personality fit for you. The one thing that we try to do is we try to do that personality matching. So if you've taken the DISC personality test, all of our VAs have taken it, and we try to match you with a DISC personality that matches you in a way that's going to be effective for you. And then if at any time, if you feel your VA is not a good fit for you, we will either find a different VA for you, or Heather and I will work you personally ourselves. Jennifer, in terms of 1,000 leads, it doesn't have to be that many. You know, we call until we get a hell yes or a hell no. So if you only have 100 people, we'll call that 100 people every single day until someone answers the phone and says, F off, or hey, what's up? And then we'll talk to them. Now, we're tenacious in the way we call, but we're very relaxed in the way we talk. So.
And if you don't have the leads, we will circle prospect. We will drum up those leads for you. We will work FISBOs. We will work cancels. We work expireds. Like it doesn't, you don't necessarily have to, like, we will come up with creative solutions to make sure that we're drumming up those leads with you, as well as, you know, building those funnels and building those campaigns and making sure your ads are set up to where we're getting enough leads in to keep us consistently working. So that way, you know, we're an investment, not an expense. We want to make sure that the money that's being spent is getting that ROI and making sure that you're not spending more than you're making, type of thing.
I have one more question. Do you guys have like an initial startup fee, or is it just the cost is the cost, you pay it weekly, or is there like an initial package? Because I know a lot of times, you know, the companies want you to put in like an initial investment.
Yep. So we do an onboarding fee, and part of that onboarding fee. So we have actually government skip tracing tools because of our background in the U.S. Department of Education. So we have access to better numbers, and we can't release that to the public, but we do have to have seats within that you have your own kind of subscription to it, but it's underneath us, but we have to pay for that with each new user that we have. And then the same with our circle prospecting. So that also gets you a seat in there. And then as well as the seat in the Nextiva call monitoring, call recording, we have to pay for each new user that we have the DIDs. So the initial startup cost covers all of those, but that also gives you access to Curtis and myself at all times. So we kind of put the little bit that's left between those 3 subscriptions and then taxes and all that stuff. And then the little bit that's left kind of goes into like we call it a bucket. Just kind of, it pays for the access to Curtis and myself. So let's say your VA is not scheduled to work till 4 in the afternoon, right? We want them in that prime time calling area, so they don't work until 5 to 7. But you get a lead that you really want work at 10 a.m. So you would either shoot us a text message, say, hey, new StreetText lead came in, or, you know, screenshot of a lead or whatever, however you want to word it, and say, hey, can you call this for me right now? Either Curtis or myself will call it within 5 minutes of getting that lead to make sure that speed to lead is met. And then that covers our time, if you will, throughout, you know, if you're with us for 2 years, that kind of depletes pretty quickly because there's not very much left. But yes, that's the only startup cost, if you will, like that onboarding fee. And also part of that onboarding, also you get a one-on-one with your assistant right off the bat. So before they do any calls with you, we have a one-on-one setup with them to go over goals, to go over expectations, to kind of get a feel for your personality, to kind of figure out where those pain points are that you're a little hesitant about. Like, for example, with you, Jennifer, you're a little bit hesitant about to give over that control. So if you need that daily check-in to say, hey, what did you do in the 2 hours that you worked? You know, to begin with, that way you can kind of get an idea of what they're doing daily. We're happy to do that. If you're somebody who wants to set it and forget it, nope, I don't want to know anything that's going on. I just want the appointment after appointment. I don't care how you do it, just do it. We can do that too. But part of that one-on-one experience and part of that onboarding is making sure that we know who you are as a person, so that way we can ensure that we're going to be successful for you.
Yeah.
Love it.
Sorry.
I think, yeah, we're close to the hour here. So let's kind of wrap up kind of thoughts and stuff. I'll let you jump in there, Curtis. And I paid for Screenshot Monitor for them, a little OCD. At least you know it. There's a difference between somebody who doesn't know it. It's like, I'm very bad at relinquishing control. Well, at least you know that you're very bad at relinquishing control.
But how good is it? Like, if you're admitting you're crazy, it's like, okay, now you know. That doesn't make it any better.
Yeah,
but
you know what you're working
part
with.
of knowing that, we know how to combat that. We know how to work with you and make sure that we do put the kid gloves on, so that we're not blindsided that, well, you know, Jennifer's asking for a daily synopsis. You want to know what, or a contact log or whatever. We know that going in, which means we can meet those expectations right from the beginning. And you're not 3 months in going, ugh, I feel like I've known nothing that you guys have done for the last 3 months because I was expecting to have this, this, and this. We can get that right from the jump. So it's a good thing, to be honest.
Right. And then just kind of wrap up a little bit. We just want to be a service that is at least as holistic as possible in the real estate world. We may not be a one-stop shop completely, but we want to provide you with an assistant who's basically going to be somebody who you would want to hire in-house anyway. Many of our VAs have been like, hey, can you fly out to where I live and work for me personally? Like constantly we get that, like, it's a joke, but like, it's a little half serious too. So at the end of the day, we don't really see ourselves as like an ISA service. We see ourselves as that remote administrative assistance service. And StreetText is a fantastic lead gen source. I've worked dozens and dozens of different lead gen sources. I have worked with many, many different types of leads. And honestly, the ones that we get from StreetText, those are typically the best ones that we get appointments for. And at the end of the day, we'll help you with your ads. We'll help you with your other aspects, with conversations, with your texting, with how you integrate them into your CRM. So if you're thinking that, hey, do I need a VA or do I need an ISA? Maybe you're looking for that time back in your day. Maybe you're looking for somebody who can like do that job of cold calling that maybe you're not quite as good at. But if there's any other pain points, please feel free to reach out. We'd be more than happy to talk with you about those things. Any last questions before the end? Perfect. The last thing then is our main focus moving forward is going to be follow-up and nurturing of leads as well. So the last few months, we've been focused obviously on getting appointments because that winter time can be very slow. So we started moving more to that follow-up and nurture pipeline, because not only do we want to get you appointments today and tomorrow and next week, we want to make sure that we're touching people who are already 3 months down the road, 6 months down the road, 9 months down the road. And we keep a nurture log that we live share with you, so that we have access to who we're nurturing, when we're supposed to follow up with them, how many contacts we've done with them. And we try to be collaborative too. So if you see a name on that list or an address that you're like, wait, I know that person through this, or that's near a house that I sold, I'm going to jump on that myself. We don't want to be your only source for appointments. We want to be able to collaborate with you, put those people, those nurtures on a silver platter for you, and then you can take the ball and run with it if you'd like to.
Yeah, love that. So I think I've dropped a link a couple of times here. Our StreetText title has dropped it a couple of times. It brings you right to the RavelWorks website where you can just fill out a contact form and they'll be in touch. And I think pricing really is depending on what you're looking for. So they can go through all of that, because I see there's some questions about that. They can go through that with you once you kind of define exactly what you're looking for and set the expectations, and they'll definitely see where they feel you should fit. It's definitely, it's leveraging. It's like, once you've done this really well, it's time to leverage to the next level. So when you're kind of stuck in your business, us as guides here at StreetText, like, we're constantly seeing the ball dropped in terms of just not having the capacity or time to follow up with people that we know are falling through the cracks. I had somebody that left StreetText, went into a different business, came back to real estate, audited all of their leads, and they looked at all of the addresses. 60% of those addresses had listed their home in the time period between when they came in and when they left. And they were like eyes wide open to the potential of what is in your database. And there's no point in paying for things if you're not going to work the things to get the ROI on the other end of it. So it's like, when you're going to invest dollars, you want to invest it into ROI. You want to invest it into things you're already spending money on, not the next shiny tool, but the actual income producing activities. What are income producing activities? You heard Curtis say it. Person to person is their goal. Face to face, because relationship is built like this. I might have met you on Facebook, but if I can get face to face, belly to belly with you, and like human to human with you in your home, that's when I'm going to grow my business. So it's really about, how do you take that Facebook click to a person-to-person meeting? And it's done gradually, like it's done human to human, relationship to relationship, and just understanding that I'm serving the person on the other end of the phone. I'm not serving myself. And I think what I can appreciate about RavelWorks is they are serving the other person. They're serving you. they're serving the person on the other end of the phone, and that just translates different. They're not just trying to get the hours in the day to get the job done to collect the paycheck. They just actually want to make sure that they connect with you. So I'm excited. I love seeing all this. We need to have you guys on to some powwow like scripting sessions in the StreetText Insider group, because I loved all the wording and everything. Ira for president. I'll come down. If any of these sponsoring Canadians, I'll come move to the US.
We have a seller evaluation script if anybody wants that too. So, but yeah.
What, Chris? You just offered scripts. Now you're going to get hit up like crazy.
Now we're going to inundate it.
Well, like I said, it's one that I developed just kind of doing this job. It's a very comfortable conversational script. It's the one that all of our VAs are trained on. I have no problem sharing it because that's nothing like proprietary per se, but it's just me having a conversation, honestly. So,
and part of that too, Curtis, actually, I'm glad you brought that up really quick. Even if you're not ready for a VA, the stuff that we want to offer is basically, because we know StreetText is such a good tool and sometimes underutilized because you are scared to get on those phones. We want to help you even if we're not helping you. So if there's anything that you need and you're not ready to hire us, or you need a VA, or you're not ready there, or you're not sure you're ready, reach out. We'll still help. We're still there to help anyone who's in StreetText succeed. That is our ultimate goal. So whether you hire us or you don't, we're still consider ourselves experts in our fields. So if you need someone to turn to, where you're just like, hey guys, I had this objection, how would you handle it? Feel free to reach out. We're there to help. 100%.
And then what they're going to do is they're going to make the sale. They're going to land the listing and then have the resources to scale. Right? We all win together. Win-win. That's our mentality over here. So thanks so much, everybody. We will wrap this up, reach out, and we will definitely pull you guys onto some brainstorming sessions. And if you're catching the recording, hit us up in the insider group and ask questions there. If you didn't get a chance to watch us live, I'm sure they'd be up for asking for questions, even if you don't set up a contact appointment form. But definitely.
Absolutely.
Okay, everyone, have a good day.
Thanks,
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.